Is any,
Sorry, what?
we have a quorum here, and do we have anybody online?
Online, we have Tony Reed. I believe he's with News Times.
Okay, thank you. Okay, I will call to order the June 14th, 2023 Happy Flag Day. And we will do a roll call, starting on the left.
Brian Lundgren here.
Jonathan Mix.
And Ellis here.
Got it.
Ricky Dyson.
Okay, then and we will note the absence of Cora and Ruth Ann and Terry, I guess. Okay, so thank you. At this point, we will approve the May 10th, 23 minutes. If there's any corrections or additions, otherwise we'll entertain a motion.
I'll move to get the next.
Okay, it's been moved by Ricky and seconded by Jonathan. And we'll just go by a voice vote to approve them. All are in favor?
Yes. Yeah.
Yes.
Yeah.
Okay, the minutes stand approved.
And then for we have to do the visitors.
Visitors, right. And now we're on to the fun part, visitors. You are noted. If you have anything to say, please come up, and we need your name and your address. Can you speak at the microphone? Depending on, and there's a green sheet, there's a protocol that we have to go by. Okay, so what's going to happen is we're going to open the meeting, and then there's going to be all sorts of stuff. And when it's time for you guys to talk, I'll have you come up. If there's anybody here for something other than what's on the application, please come up and say whatever you want to say now. Okay, so at this point in time, I will go ahead and open the meeting. This is for conditional use and a variance. I buried everything that's important. Okay. The application is CU 223 for the conditional use and variance 223. The Lincoln County Assessor's Map 111017 Tax Law 800. The applicant is Sheila Stiley, Northwest Coastal Housing. The property owner is the city of Toledo. They're requesting a conditional use permit to build a multi-family dwelling in single-family residential zone, specifically a 30-unit apartment building, and a variance to reduce the rear yard setback from 5 feet to 1. This is a second time we're hearing this because of the dates and timelines. The property is located west of Southeast Sturdivant Road near Southeast 14th Street, and it's approximately 1.7 acres. And so I think at this time we can take a staff report.
So you have to do all of the fun stuff.
Okay, this is where it gets boring. Okay, so I got to read all this stuff. Okay, so what I'm doing is calling for a declaration of conflict of interest, ex parte contact, or advised by commissioners for any of tonight's agenda items.
Well, originally I went over and looked at it.
Okay, and I went and revisited the site again today. Okay. Chair, parties have the right to give reasons why they wish a commissioner to be disqualified from a decision item or rebut during the hearing the substance of the ex parte communication. All testimony or evidence presented toward the request being heard must be directed toward the relevant criteria contained in the Toledo Municipal Codes, to other city plans or policies, or to criteria which a person believes pertains to the request. All persons shall raise issues with sufficient clarity so as to allow the planning commission or others an adequate opportunity to respond to or resolve the issue. Failure to address a criterion before the close of the hearing record precludes an appeal to the Land Use Board of Appeals based on that criterion. Failure by the applicant no later than the close of the hearing record to raise constitutional or other issues relating to the proposed conditions of approval with sufficient specificity to allow the city to respond to the issues will preclude an action for damages based on those issues in the circuit court. Prior to the close of the evidentiary record of this hearing, a participant may request an opportunity to present additional evidence, arguments, or testimony regarding the application. If a participant requests such an opportunity prior to the close of the evidentiary record, then the Planning Commission will either continue the hearing for at least 7 days or leave the record open for at least 7 days to allow the submission of additional written evidence, arguments, or testimony. An appeal from an action or ruling by the Planning Commission can be made to the City Council within 14 days after the date of the Planning Commission's decision or ruling by filing a written notice and paying the appeal fee. The date of the Planning Commission decision is the date the order is signed. If no appeal is taken within the 14-day period, the action or ruling of the Planning Commission shall be final. If an appeal is filed, the council shall receive a report and recommendation from the appropriate city official and shall hold a public hearing. In order to have standing for an appeal, a person must have been mailed written notice or have participated in writing or in person at the Planning Commission public hearing or have been substantially affected by the action or ruling. Okay, so I did the description. I went a little out of order, but once again, this is for a conditional use and a variance. And now we'll go ahead and take the step.
All right, thank you.
Thank you.
So this, as Ann mentioned, this is an application for a conditional use and a variance for a 30-unit apartment building. In terms of, I want to kind of clearly note the location
Yes,
of the
please.
project. So in the packet, there's a couple maps included. One is the zoning map, and on that map, this is a piece of property that has an approved partition application that's in the process of being finalized with the county through a partition plat. And so it's the only portion here is the 1.7 acres kind of in the southeast corner. That is the RS zoning. And then to the west of that, the remaining area is a natural resource zone, and that's about 20 acres. So that's none of that area is proposed to be built on with this application and is not expected to be built on in the long-term future either.
It's this little, I had a heart, it's this one right here on the aerial map.
Yeah, that little southeast
This corner, right?
corner. Yeah.
Yeah, that's.
So
what I think.
if you look at the east boundary along the road. And then go along the top and where there's the corner. And then go down to the other corner, staying parallel to that east side. Is generally where it is. And so the line would run through what CS 184 on the map, County Survey 184.
And then that zoning.
Okay, now I'm, once you, that's 184. It's gonna, you're saying that little wedge, once they get around to.
That's what's basically left after the survey.
After the survey.
Yeah, after the partition. This is the application.
Okay.
And kind of another super clear map is that attachment B that's in there, that's the zoning map, it's towards the back of the packet. I think some of you have it open, but it's that yellow on the map, that RS portion. The rest, the remaining to the west is
Yeah.
natural resource zone and not proposed to be built on. And that area that's natural resource zone also has a conservation easement on it, so that's not expected to be built in the long-term future either. And so I just wanted to make it super clear in terms of the location.
Yeah, I was a little confused
of the
myself when you
project.
drive down there. Yeah.
And so it's about 1.7 acres after that partition, and that partition, that western line was intentionally being drawn to avoid the floodplain, so the floodplains to the west on that natural resource side, not on on the city side. And then we'll kind of, once that partition is finalized, we'll confirm that that's true, and that the project is outside of the floodplain area. And then also to the west on that natural resource parcel is some wetland area, and that's part of why that area is not proposed to be built. We do have to contact the Department of State Lands, which is the state agency that regulates wetlands. And there will be some future conversations to confirm that wetland boundary to make sure that no wetlands are being impacted by the project. So this parcel, it does have a couple of easements that kind of run across it. So there's a sewer easement, a power line easement, and a water line easement. So those all do cross the property, and the design was intentionally kind of built to be between all of those easement areas. And kind of the property kind of slopes down into the west. And so for city water and city sewer, both of those are available. So water's in Sturdivant, and then sewer actually crosses the property and is in Sturdivant. So the Public Works Department reviewed the proposal, and those are available to connect for the project. We had some comments that were received. So some were internal staff comments from Public Works, and then from the Lincoln County building official, they provided comments in 2021, but this work would have to go through the standard building permit process. We also received some comments and have been coordinating with the Lincoln County Public Works Department, because Sturdivant Road is still a county maintained road. So we've been working closely with Lincoln County Public Works, and we'll have to continue to work with them to make sure that those access points are the final access points will have to be approved by the county. And they've been taking a close look to make sure that they'll take a close look to make sure that final access is safe as they determine it. And right now the proposal has the two access points on the site plan, and some potential things that were discussed. We're having that north access only a right turn in, and no left turn or right turn out. And then so that left turn out would actually be on the southernmost access only, because there's better sight lines. The fire department provided some comments in terms of internal circulation, in terms of a no parking lane, and then also fire hydrant, and then making sure that they have adequate access as well. We did receive some comments from neighbors, which are included in the packet with some concerns. So we had one comment that's included in the packet with concerns around the street corner, speed of traffic, and wildlife. And then the full comments are in the packet. And after the staff report was completed, we received a couple other comments which were provided from the Department of State Lands and another property owner with some concerns, but those are in the packet. So this kind of moving to page 5, this application is a conditional use application. So in the RS zone, RS single family zone, the multifamily dwelling units are allowed through but it has to go through this public conditional use process. And then just to note, this was noted earlier, but this was approved about 2 years ago. But the conditional use only allows one additional renewal. So this is kind of a new 1-year approval, and then potential for a 1-year renewal, but that gives time for the building to actually break ground. And on page 5 as well, we note some goals in our comprehensive plan, and goal 1 of the comprehensive plan states encourage development of a mixture of housing stock in terms of design, type, cost, and location that meets the housing needs of all Toledo citizens. So there's a couple other goals or objectives here that are listed, but staff kind of looking at this proposal in the comprehensive plan housing goals thinks that this proposal meets those goals because it would provide a mixture of housing types. And then it also kind of getting into the goals, it develops on an existing vacant lot where services are already available at that site. So there's no need to extend services out to this site for water and sewer. And so for on page 6 and 7, it kind of lists the process for conditional use permits, but I want to focus on the standards for conditional uses. So the decision will have to be made on the criteria in the code, which is in 1764-50. It states, in addition to the other applicable standards of this section, all conditional uses shall comply with the following requirements. The site under consideration is suitable for the proposed use. Considering the size, design, operating characteristics of the use, the adequacy of transportation, access, the natural and physical features of the site. And then the proposed use is compatible with the existing and projected uses on surrounding lands. So that's the criteria in the code. And so on the next couple of pages, on page 8 and 9, which I'll let the applicant go into some detail when they provide their comments, but these are what was provided in the application materials. And a lot of the staff findings kind of go over the same text in response. So I'll kind of jump to the staff findings on page 10. And some of this we kind of already covered a little bit, but we just kind of want to go into this into some more detail. The applicant and staff kind of states this too, provided some detail that the property kind of slopes down to the west, which that will reduce kind of the visual impact of the building being down compared to, since it slopes down to the west. And this lot is 1.7 acres in size, so it's larger than many of the lots that have maybe a single family home, which maybe are only 6,000 to 10,000 square feet around the city. But it is a larger lot. And so I kind of mentioned it, but item 2 talks about the building permit process. So they'll have to go through that process. And then the fire department, we kind of discussed that a little bit already too, but those will both be conditions of approval as part of the, if the application's approved, that'll be the part of the approval. And so the site plan also shows a detention pond there for stormwater, so that a stormwater management plan will be submitted as part of the building permit. There is a barn, I didn't mention it yet, but there's a barn on the property and that's proposed to be removed, but otherwise the property is vacant. And then item 6 talks about the access to the county road, which I had gone into some detail. We've had a meeting with the Lincoln County staff, and then they provided comments. They did mention some concerns still in terms of that access, but any final access would have to be reviewed and approved with them. We discussed some potential kind of mitigation measures, but that current access is shown with 2 accesses, but it could potentially be a single access if that's determined to be the safest option. But I believe the applicant wants to stick with the 2 accesses for cost, but I'll let them provide additional detail too. And then other improvements are some road widening and potentially some guardrail improvements at that location. The property shows the applicant site plan has 59 parking spaces shown, and per the code, actually only 47 spaces would be required. So they're going above and beyond there. the height of the building is 26 feet, which is actually less than what the zone allows. The zone allows up to 35 feet. And I mentioned a little bit in terms of the easements, but any easements would have to be protected during construction and then after construction so that the city can access those later. And there's a note here around the geotech. So anytime development, not just this development, but anytime development touches slopes over 25%, a geotech is required. So this is kind of just a standard condition of approval that if it's determined that anywhere there are slopes above 25%, then a geotech is submitted. We did submit the proposal to the Department of State Lands, who's the wetland agency that I mentioned for the state. So any final site plan would have to confirm that the impacts, wetlands are not being impacted as part of the proposal. And that's kind of why it's located in that proposed locations in that southeast corner, not on the natural resource portion. It's on the residential zoning portion of the parcel. So this, there was one public comment that mentioned some history of the property. So this property was rezoned in actually 2001 through a periodic review process. So that's where that current residential zoning on that southeast corner came from. And this proposal is not proposing a rezone. That's already the existing zoning. There's a note here about the partition plat. We've been working with the surveyor to get that recorded, and we're hoping that that's recorded soon. We've been working on that, and we'll get that. That has to be approved prior to the building permit and the work being submitted. And then there was this was not in the previous approval, but something that wasn't noted was some potential for signs. So there's a condition on the maximum size of a sign for the property, which would be right now it's listed at 32 square feet. And any sort of sign would have to be confirmed not to impact any sort of clear vision. And so that's for the conditional use. The second part of the application is the variance. So the variance part of the proposal, it's only to the rear yard, so that western lot line. Actually, when this went through the first time, rear yard was a 15-foot minimum setback. Now it's a 5-foot. So we changed that through some of our residential code updates. So it's going from 5 feet to 1 foot for that variance. And this criteria would only apply to that western lot line. So the criteria for the variance states will cause no adverse impact to livability, value, or appropriate development of a abutting property. So that to the west, the only abutting property there, it's touching the natural resource parcel. So the variance is to that natural resource parcel. The hardship to the development exists because of the lot size or shape. This lot has the challenges of the easements that make it that setback has to be encroached on. And then the proposed use will be the same as permitted under the code. So we're not changing through this proposal in the variance. It's not changing the use that's being proposed. So those, and then it kind of on page 15 to about 22, it kind of that's the facts and findings, which kind of repeat copies of what was just provided. And then the staff recommendation is approval of the proposal with the following conditions, which kind of went over some of these already. These conditions of approval would have to be met when that development comes forward. So driveway improvements and access must be coordinated and approved by the Lincoln County Public Works Department and the Toledo Fire Department. The final access plan may include the single or the double access. Building permits required, removing the existing barn. That final plat has to be recorded. And then that will confirm that the floodplain is not on the parcel, but if there is a case where it needs to be adjusted slightly, then there could be a lot line adjustment, but that would only be to remove the floodplain from the parcel. There's stormwater management plan would have to be submitted, a landscape plan, vehicle parking, and then the easements protected, and then any guardrail or road improvements. And then on that western lot line, there'd have to be one of the conditions is no trespassing signs on that western lot line, because that natural resource parcel is proposed to not be developed or disturbed. The geotech potentially, and then coordinating with the Department of State Lands and other state and federal agencies as necessary. The fire conditions that I mentioned. And then a sprinkler system in the building. If as required or if required by the building code. And then the sign condition. That's the staff report for the proposal. And now I think I could answer any like minor clarifying questions, but otherwise we could go to the applicant for their testimony.
Anybody have any? So at this point, we will, the person that is presenting the application, they come up and, I don't know if they're they're online. Or
They're
on Zoom. There you are. Hello, come on down.
There's actually a mic available.
Right, are we done?
Thank you. Good evening, Sheila Stiley, Executive Director of Northwest Coastal Housing. Thank you for the opportunity to speak to this. This is a really great partnership with the city in trying to figure out how we can bring a little more housing here to Toledo. And we have been waiting on some things to get finalized, which you heard that we've been working through those pieces. We are looking at 22 one-bedrooms, 8 two-bedrooms. The one-bedroom seem to be a commodity right now with individuals really needing to have some space. Not a lot of those around, so we're trying to accommodate that as well. But we are going through the processes, and I'm here to answer any questions that you might have.
The access and the safety, that's my main concern on the road.
Ours as well.
Yeah, I know it is. And so you're willing to go with however the county feels will be the best way to do that.
There is the two-part access. The reason why we're going with that is first of all, it's the right turn only, which we feel is really important coming from that direction and getting people off the road. But also it assists with the fire department. It's their preference to just do an in-out versus to have to go around and do a complete turn radius. And that would require a lot of fill. It would require additional retainer wall things, just would require a lot of additional things that we don't feel is necessary, and it's going to increase traffic flow in the one opening anyway, and we just don't feel that that's the most appropriate and safest way to pursue this.
Yes, specific question.
The second one's a right or left.
So do I understand it then that coming into the property, it's the right turn coming up Studevant
Correct.
and going out is the other entrance or exit?
The exit, correct. Well, I mean, it's either depending on which direction you're coming from. It can be the left turn entrance if coming
So
from
the
direction.
second entrance could be egress and ingress.
Correct.
But the first one is only going to be ingress.
Correct. Yeah, well, there's a corner right there. That's where the vast majority of your traffic is going to be coming from.
So
You have to figure that out, though. That nothing has been confirmed yet. It's in it, and that lies in the lap of Lincoln County roads.
Correct.
Okay.
So we talked at the time, I remember back maybe a long time ago now, but we talked at the time of the broadening the road there on that curve
That's correct.
because of the with the feed and so on, people come down. Have you talked to the county about that, how they're gonna handle that situation?
We would have to widen that section to allow for a single car pull off before they go into that right turn only area. So a guardrail would need to be added in that area as well. So yes, they're thinking through it. They need to go through and obviously analyze this a little more about their different criteria that they want for us to meet that. But certainly those are the topics of safety being the priority of this entire project.
Will you have to put in a retaining wall on that low spot?
If we do the single entrance, that's where that retainer wall comes into play. I know that sounds strange, but you would with the amount of a turn radius that you'd have to have in order to accommodate a fire truck. So yes, we would have to bring fill up to accommodate a little bit more than a higher retainer wall.
Okay, but in this particular case, because we're talking about two, we will not need that so much, I guess.
Correct.
As of now. Once they get in there and they start, yeah,
Well, again, we're gonna have to bring in a lot. We've got to bring it up to grade.
right.
So it's gonna be some fill that we'll have to put in there, but not as much as we would have to by doing that single. And I want to make sure that we're using what's there and being mindful about the process. And so does the county when we're pursuing that entrance and exit. Yeah.
Has the county talked at all about having a lower speed restriction maybe on that area?
Well, I've certainly talked to them about that, but but they are going to look at that as well. Yeah, it's definitely a topic of conversation that we have. I mean, there's a speed limit there anyway, not that people abide by it all the time either. So I mean, that's one of the issues. That's right.
Well, one concern I have is the water table. So you're gonna dig down about put a foundation, but how far down is the water table from where your foundation is? Because that can fluctuate a little bit.
And we had our geotech come in and do a soil survey and evaluate that. And everything that came back looks really good and solid. There were no issues that they came back with that seemed to be any type of red flags. And that was done a couple of years ago when we did this initial application. It's been 2 years now. But again, it was a nice thorough investigation that they did for this initial process.
That's all there.
So you're talking about when you have, if you need to fill, not the entire West Lane, but down this area, I'm sorry, right here. That's the area that you were going to have to do some filling for.
Is that where the road is? I'm sorry. Yes.
Yeah, this is Sturtevant Road right
Right.
here.
Right.
So.
Well,
is
there's
it
a
the-
grade that we have to do going down to it as well. So there's a little bit of fill that we're gonna have to bring in. Imagine it being like a triangle.
Okay,
Yeah.
yeah, so my question, I guess, rather awkward, is would it be along the entire part of Sturtevant Road, or just, it looks like it's pretty high and it falls like in one corner is where you're gonna have to fill.
Yeah, we might be looking at a swale and other things too in there, of course, but you know, we'll do what we need
Do
to.
what you need to do.
Correct.
Thank you.
So will you be using that high spot as part of the building? Rating off that high spot in the middle?
Again, we haven't been able to get that far in the process. So, I mean, we'll be able to answer that in a little more detail.
There'll be opportunity for rebuttal too.
Right. So. Is there anybody else, any other questions? Okay. So at this point in time, we will go ahead and if there's anybody that is opposed to this, and then you'll be able to.
Sure.
So people objecting to the application, if there's anybody objecting, if they would please come up and give us their name and address and tell us specifically what it is that you're concerned about.
All right. All right, my name is Brian Luppigan. We're recent residents of the town and
I'm sorry, I didn't catch your last name.
Brian Ludwig.
Ludwig.
Yes.
Address.
We live at 1310 Southeast Bend. It was the old Malley place. And my concern is, and I'm not against progress. This is fine. And I think it's a good thing maybe for the city. But my concern is our driveway is on that last bend right at the bottom, just before you're getting to Alder. And it is absolutely blind bend. We can see maybe 50 feet. We cannot see any of the road up past our neighbor's driveway, which is, they're right there, less than 50 feet from our driveway. And then we can't see anything else. Now we've only been here for less than 2 years. We've already almost got hit 6 times. We have delivery trucks, mail trucks that pull into our driveway and they got to back out there. It is impossible. You cannot see around it. All you can do is bite your lip and try to take out as fast as you can. And I mean, some people come around there so fast and there are people that just think it's a speedway coming down there. And there's always going to be those people. There are exceptions. Not everybody's like that. But even when they're going the speed limit, when they come around that bend, and we're just hoping that there's nobody there. We have no idea whether there is or isn't. Now we're talking about 59 extra parking spaces in this place. Now, I'm not against that, like I said, but if we're going to do that, if they're going to do this, I would like it to be safe for us because, like I said, it is blind. If they could put a mirror out there to where we can see. Now, our neighbor, his driveway comes right up to the little bend right there. So he can pull out to the end of the driveway and look up. We cannot see past any of that. So we need some way to make it safe so that people coming in and out, us going out, can get out in that road without always taking a risk of losing our life every time we enter, because we're just hoping when we pull out.
Have you had a chance to talk to the county?
I haven't, I didn't know who you're talking. I didn't know
think
that
the
it was
county
county.
would probably be a good place because it is a county road.
Okay.
The idea of the mirror is excellent. It looks to me like looking at this map that this possibly is your driveway right there. And I can see where it would be problematic, very problematic. And
See, this is the bend, this is the neighbor. And so and I didn't bring my glasses.
I can show you.
It's right there, but see, this is the bend right here. And this, you cannot see past this right here. This is as far as we can see. And so you have no idea who's coming down that way. Absolutely none. It's totally blind.
They come down there like
And
a racetrack.
yeah,
If that's,
yeah, we're right.
if that's it. I can,
We're right
because
here.
I went up and turned and it is.
And
This
there's, yeah, because this is a duplex.
I think if you type.
No, that's
That's owned by
okay.
Don Medino.
It's the next one. It's the next one.
Towards Alder, yeah.
Right there, or right here. I guess.
Alder's this, the two that I can't show.
So maybe that's the buildings.
I wish I had put on my glasses.
Run the opposite way of that.
But anyway, it's absolutely blind. We
I can
cannot.
understand, and I've been up and down that
It's
road.
scary.
Yeah, I empathize. We all empathize.
And if you have to go in there with a camper and come back up, you absolutely are just risky. We usually have to send someone up the road to flag to make it safe to get in and out with a delivery truck, a camper, or anything that was in that driveway. Because we cannot see. So I'm just thinking of the extra traffic because it's already so dangerous.
No, but we've discussed the traffic, that's been one of our main concern also is the road. It is the Lincoln County road. So I would, if I give them a call and we've gotten, it looks like would Mr. Kenyon perhaps be a person to talk to? He's familiar, he's contacted us. And so he might be familiar with the area that you're talking about.
So what is it that's blocking you? I'm trying to visualize. it.
Okay, well, it's not a 45, but it's almost a 45. We're looking, where driveway's here, we're looking out this way, but the road is coming this way. And it's just a point. It's a point of the neighbor's property that comes out there and completely blocks the entire road. We have and that's like 50 feet from our driveway. We cannot see, we can see that first property there, that kind of old farmland there. We can see their property, but we can't see any of the road past 50 feet. We can see this up just past our post office box or our mailbox, and that's it. We can't see nothing. Everything that comes from here, and they come around there just at such a speed that it's, like I said, you have to bite your lip and try to get out there because you don't know. You don't know if there's someone there or not. And that's what problem is we come out there and all of a sudden they're on top of us. And there's nothing we could have done one way or the other to prevent it. Because we're just kind of gambling every time we pull out of there.
Can I go for a second?
Yes.
So in terms of the current existing conditions, even without this proposal, you can call the county and see if there's any like mitigation measures that can help you with right now.
Yeah.
And then as part of the proposal, part of it is that whatever gets put in is we'll have to work with the applicant and the county to make sure that the county's willing to sign off on the change.
Yeah, I didn't realize that it
Yeah.
was county. I just thought it was all part of the city.
They might be, this proposal might not happen for a while, like, since it's a year-long approval period. For your short-term period, you could call the county this week or next week, see if they can work on something right now, if they have any ideas. But in speaking to speed limit changes, unfortunately, there's like a state process that all cities have to follow to get it lowered. So it's a possibility, but there's kind of steps.
Yeah, because the speed limit is faster coming down there than it is once you get down at the bottom. Then all of a sudden it switches to 25, and there is a difference in speed limit there. But that doesn't make any difference to a lot of people because they just go whatever they want to go. It doesn't matter, So anyway, that's it. I wasn't sure I was supposed to be here. I didn't know. But I'm absolutely not against progress. I just want to make it safe. I would like to be safe.
Yeah,
And I-
that's our main priority too.
All right,
And so
good.
thanks for coming and for your input, Mr. Lithwick.
All right,
And I think the county engineers will be concerned.
all right, good.
That's certainly a liability.
Okay, are there any other opponents or people that want to make a statement regarding this application? No.
You can do proponents too, I think.
Okay, and then are there any people in favor of this other than the applicant who would like, please come up and
I just trying to get more information myself.
okay, if we have information about you, that would be great.
All right. My name is Norman Thompson. And I live at 1681 Southeast 3rd Road. That would put the units right up my front door. And I guess what I'm really objecting to the whole thing is how we got here. And to this stage. Not particularly fond of how it was rezoned. It was zoned for one thing and then another. And my other question is we went through this a few years ago about a proposal by Mayor Cross at council who were going to put in some buildings, housing. And they would not, they could buy the units, but they couldn't own the land beneath it. Is that the same thing that's going to happen here?
My understanding, and I could maybe let the city answer those
Yeah.
questions.
I can speak to that. It's not final until it's signed by the parties. But the draft is a 99-year lease, and in the last 6 months of the lease, they have an option to buy it. And it's not for a lot of money because it's providing housing.
Well,
Is the cost of, clarify the cost of the lease is.
Yes, the cost of the lease is minimal. Very minimal.
I understand, that's what happened with New York City was my understanding, our 99-year lease, yeah, so, yeah. Does that answer your question, Mr.
oh,
Thompson?
it does. It does, as I said, I'm not particularly in favor of it.
Mhm.
And the reason I stayed because I've been through this now for the last 20 years or more.
Okay. Regarding
Regarding
that area,
how
how it's
how
been
it got here,
changed. Yeah.
directly with that filling in
Mhm.
that wetland down there and then declaring this out there a wetland when it really was a wetland. There's been untold studies. I've grown weary of it.
Yeah.
And I've tried to explain to people how this occurred with a group. You folks should be on that end of the room. And we talked the council into putting it to a vote, the people. And they did agree, but one counselor raised his hand and said, make it an advisory vote. And from that point on, been messed up. When in other words, when Mayor Branstad looked directly at the other counselor, and she picked it up very quickly, and we are here today. The real person that should be paid a $95,000 fine was the city attorney. It's been going on for a lot of years. I'm not going to be around for many more years. But it's just been a dragged out mess. Now, my other concern is we were talking about these roads and stuff.
Right.
And I've already had 190 feet taken off front of my property by the county in previous.
Unfortunately, Mr. Thompson, there's nothing we can, if it's the county, then that's.
I understand that, but there will be proposal. It's like rezoning again. I have watched, and right there where you're proposing the apartment house. Right there will be, I've got photos of 100 geese there or more sometimes, and more or less here or there.
It's 1.7 acres and the rest of it, the 20 acres will be.
I understand.
And it is zoned and we can't change the zoning at this point in time. But I
I
can
do have
understand,
another issue when the site was removed.
right. But it's done now,
I know it's done,
yeah.
but somebody was responsible for it. I'm about to lose 20 trees. And it's washing my property away. And over 50 years, I lost 2 trees due to erosion. I got less than the width of this table right here left to go since it's been removed. When those trees fall in the river, I'm going to take photos of it. I've already taken photos of my picture. I have some big fir trees too, on the other end.
Hey, Mr.
It's been this proposal and the handling of this has been absolutely ridiculous.
Well, I'm sorry you feel that way. We're gonna proceed on with the meeting. And,
I thank you for the time.
yes,
And I thank you for this. I've been trying to get the information,
okay.
so.
It's hard to see the land change. I know it is. Okay.
Not so much that how the process.
Yes,
I'm not going to go into a great deal of detail. I do appreciate the opportunity to speak a little bit about it. And I can talk an awful lot about some of the things that could be done and addressed. I'm not sure where you live.
okay, Mr. Thompson, we're gonna go on with our meeting. Okay, thank you. Okay, are there any other interested parties who would like to speak, or any other proponents, opponents? Okay, at this point, we will have rebuttal by the applicant, if the applicant wants to address any of these questions.
Thank you. I'm so grateful I have my staff here with me to be the other part of my head, to remind me of some very valuable information. And I'm surprised that I had forgotten this, but we actually did have a pretty lengthy conversation with the county, enough about the traffic that, this would be and how much is already there and the speed. And they did say that it sounds like they do need to do a traffic study in order to reevaluate what the reduction in the speed would be there. So whether or not this goes through, that's something that's important to us. Right? This is to me too. So it's important that they really evaluate this. It's important. I don't want anybody getting hurt. And I love the mirror idea. I think that's a phenomenal idea. I think that should go all over the place, but in all honesty, because it's a county road, we have thought of and tried to be very creative in some of the processes. Again, some of that, it's out of our hands where they are concerned. But we're trying to be very cognizant of the concerns that individuals are having, not to create more of a burden, but more of how can we make this a safer environment all the way around? Does widening the road help? Does putting the guardrail help? If we have a turnoff there, does that maybe assist some folks that are, maybe do need to turn around like a truck? Does this alleviate some of those issues? I think it does, and I hope it does. And certainly this going in, and I would encourage them to please communicate with the county and encourage them to do a traffic study and try to get that reduction in speed. We're definitely proponents of that for sure. And we'd like to encourage that. So absolutely. Yeah.
Any questions by the commission? No? Okay. I'm feeling like they've pretty much covered everything that they can cover within their
I guess I do. And we liability issues with this, what's gone on before is gone.
No. I don't think so.
I don't think so either. Yes, legally, yeah.
No, it's, yeah. Yeah, no. But I've been raised by now. Okay.
I know nothing.
Okay, if that is it, I am going to close the hearing and we shall deliberate.
Right? I have one thing. What about these bidders that we got today?
That one was, that one came today, yeah. Yeah.
It's something we need to review.
I didn't see anything in there that I thought we needed to. Somebody else did. No, no, it's noted and it'll be part of the record. Okay. So we have criteria in front of us. We have conditions in front of us. And we have, it gives everybody a chance to look at the conditions. And if they want, if indeed we do approve this, is there anything that anybody wants to add or not? Page 23. If we go there, we can make sure. And I'm sorry, I'm blanking on the applicant's name.
Sheila.
Sheila, thank you. And I think that if they're going to, with the additional information, they're going to get a traffic study, because when Mr. Ludwig was talking, I was thinking that it would be nice if they could get some sort of traffic study and whether or not somebody has said that the fire department, that is the best way, because I personally, that's my main concern is the traffic on the road. It's we deal with it all the time, all through Toledo, the narrow streets and this. That's why originally things were turned down to 25 within the city limits, was because of the narrow streets and the visibility. So, but we can't do anything about the county, but it would be great if something could be done about the road.
Who makes that request to the county if you decided something was important?
So just
How do we do that?
in general or as part of the
Well,
application?
What if say we want to say, let's make that 25 miles per hour.
Then they have to do, like Mike was saying, we have to go through the state, right?
It's through the county, but it's a state process.
A state
follows
process.
it in the submittal and they have to approve it and it's a long process.
Well, if it's a long process and we need to do it, then we need to start.
Yeah.
But the city doesn't have any authority over the county.
No,
But somebody has to say, we want, how about this, or we want this, or
I
what do we
think
do? We just stand there and wave our arms?
Well, the county did, I think, will determine on the road station its speed limit, and they do those traffic studies by number of vehicles per.
Sure.
And so like. As an example, I live on a highway in Sweet Home. And they talked about putting in a stoplight on the highway with 47. And there's not enough traffic up and down the highway. I mean, different speed, different place. But I don't know how you word a condition to require it if it
well,
because other than applicant may ask the county to do a traffic study, because I'm not sure that.
well, if some of the neighbors that live along the road, get on the county, that would probably.
Because I'm not sure that, you're required as a condition, and
No.
they're not bound by any condition that we make.
I understand that.
Yeah, no, I don't.
The first person that gets killed They disagree.
I know, I'm just trying to think
And-
through it all.
Yeah. But
Unfortunately,
we can't
that,
do anything at all.
I think you could make a condition to request the county do a traffic study to lower the speed limit.
Okay, at least that's something.
but what happens if if that study isn't done then, where it is,
Well, in the county,
we make it a condition?
the county will have a statutory process in the Oregon revised statute that will tell them what they need to do to lower the speed limit. And they will either be able to do it or not, depending on number of cars going up and down that
They'll be able to
road.
do the study, or they'll be able to do the.
They'll be able to complete the process to justify lowering the speed limit.
I don't think it makes sense to make it a condition because these are conditions
No.
for the applicant, not the county.
I know. Yeah, I mean, so that's what I'm saying. You could say with the applicant that you may request the county do it, but
Yeah,
it's not really.
And there
It's
could be
a
a
good
case
condition.
that, so that it requires the final approval from the county. And the county could say, in order to get final approval, we need to do the traffic study. Or they might, the other ones that we had discussed were the guardrail improvements, the road widening. The right turn in only condition on the north access. But that, no matter what, the county was being very careful in terms of their review, and they want to make sure it's safe before they would sign off on anything, and that's what the condition requires, is that whatever's put forward in front of them, they have to sign off on it or say this needs to be adjusted.
I don't understand what that means.
the letter that we got in 21 from Roy Kenyon, right? He's representing the county and.
Yeah, he's
and
the county's
road.
I think Public Works
Public
Director.
Works,
Yeah.
thank you. And it looks as though they're open, but that they kind of want to stick with they've discussed the changes to the guardrail and the possibility of road widening. I wanted you to know that the concerns that I mentioned were addressed in our meeting, which must have been an internal meeting that they had. And so the county is, they have the say over this, and it looks like at this point in time, if reading this letter the way I read it, they felt that they would, that just the one access in ingress egress would be sufficient. But he left it open, it sounds like, kind of like you guys decide, and then, did I read that letter correctly?
Yeah, so the county, I think preferred
The one,
the single access, but
Yeah.
then from the applicant side, that created you have to create a fire turnaround in there, which creates the additional fill and then the additional retaining wall for cost. And that's why currently that site plan shows the two accesses, and I think that's the preferred route. So there is some kind of additional work that needs to be done with the county to make sure they would sign off on the second access, and that's where like the road widening, potentially mirrors is another good idea. Guardrails, speed limit lowering are all things that the county could end up requiring or working on.
So how do we? I guess I don't want to sound stubborn about it, but there must be somebody in the county that's responsible for
This guy
changes.
that wrote this email, the county road master that runs the road department,
Okay,
that works for the county commissioners, Roy Kenyon, that wrote this letter in the packet.
And I got the
Yeah.
impression in our meetings that he's not just gonna sign off on anything that's proposed. And he's gonna take a careful look at it to make sure that, in his professional opinion, that final access is safe, because the county doesn't want to be liable for signing off on something that ends up not being safe.
All right, so
Or criteria-
why can't we just simply say make the speed limit out of the,
We can't because it's their
Not
road,
our road. It's not our road and.
county road.
Yeah,
whose road it is? Whoever gets killed, don't care.
You should go and talk to the county or the applicant.
it's the same thing happened on Pioneer Mountain, you know, they waited until, I mean. Unfortunately, that's the way it goes. They did the turn lane, it was, what, 30 years ago? A girl was killed on Pioneer, not Pioneer Mountain, Buford's Hill, excuse me, Buford's Hill going into Newport. And that's when they finally, you know, changed that road. But yeah, unfortunately, it did take a bad accident.
Anybody want to volunteer?
You're the one that's complaining. Go ahead and you talk to him.
Well, can we finish it? I have.
Yeah, let's move on, okay? Because we need to move on.
You do?
Yeah, yes.
Yeah, our
I got it.
criteria, we're voting on the criteria
Yeah.
for the conditional use.
Right,
Okay.
Whether it
You're right.
matches our criteria or not.
yeah,
Sorry.
yeah. So back to page 23. Which is, these are all good points, but unfortunately, this isn't where we're going to resolve them.
Right.
So page 23. So we're back to the conditions. Jonathan, if you had a chance to look over those,
It's all the same as it was the first time.
except for the, something about one foot as opposed to the other there. Oh, and the 32-foot square, the sign, the size of the sign. is,
Before there was
Been added.
no size condition for the sign, a
Yeah.
potential sign.
Yeah.
But that wasn't in a proposal, but it's assumed that there might be some sign.
And the fire hydrants and all that good stuff. So there is a proposed motion, if everybody's had a chance to go over the staff recommendations.
Want me to make a motion?
Yeah, I'm looking at you.
All right, I'll make a motion. Based on the testimony received in the staff report and the evidence and arguments before the planning commission at the public hearing on June 14th, 2023, the planning commission finds that the request by the city of Toledo and the Northwest Coastal Housing CU-2-23 and BAR text, yeah, very -2-23 complies with the criteria identified in Toledo Municipal Code 17.64.050 and 17.63.050. Planning Commission hereby adopts the staff reports as findings as well as the proposed conditions of the approval for CU-2-23 and BAR-2-23. And allowing for the correction of typographical and grammatical errors.
Okay, thank you, Brian. Okay, so we have a motion and a second. All those in favor, say aye. Aye. Okay, it passes with much discussion, and we hope that it will work out for all in the long run. So thank you. It's over. So now we will move on. Unless somebody needs to take a break. Break sounds good. The break sounds good. Okay, we'll take a 5-minute break. Thank you.
I would,
Sure.
Please, I don't want to hear it.
Yeah.
I'll
Not
do that.
not tonight.
I'll do that.
I don't think
Okay.
anyone did their homework.
So,
You have commanded.
is everybody back? Are they well rested?
I think the rest of the meeting will be pretty quick. Yeah,
Good, good.
No, we're gonna try and come back at the next meeting and get back into the comp plan in detail. And we actually, at the next meeting, we'll have Department of Land Conservation and Development staff to talk a little bit about the Yaquina Bay
Oh,
estuary management plan update. So we can talk about that section. And some other sections as well, probably, but it will probably be a long meeting because there's that and there will be another public hearing at that meeting.
you're just buttering up.
But it'll be a partition application, so hopefully non-controversial. And I'm gonna say for the homework from the last meeting was to look at the introduction, but we can push that to the next meeting if no one's had a chance to review. But again, take a look at that introduction chapter, and if there's anything in there that needs to be changed or updated, let staff know. And that's kind of all I have on the comp plan. And then I don't have an update and report, but I did want to mention that next week is Judy's retirement. Is it a party or?
Yeah, open house. it'll
Open
be
house.
For the council meeting next Wednesday.
Next Wednesday? So what time do we show up?
Well, you're asking tough questions.
I think-
5 o'clock. I
Five?
think, Yeah.
5-ish.
This will be my last meeting to be with you in person, but I'll be attending via Zoom. As we move forward, I'm gonna continue working until they get a person in my place.
Oh, that's so good to hear.
So I think it might be a month or two.
Okay,
Yeah, but
okay,
you'll see me on Zoom. I'll be on Zoom with you.
okay.
Yeah.
Okay, good. Well, yeah.
We're gonna miss you.
Anyways, yeah,
Thank you.
yeah. So any other staff comments? Any other commissioner comments?
I just have one staff comment very quickly. Mark your calendars. National Night Out is August 1st. And you know, that'll be here in the blink of an eye.
What's
National
Night Out.
Nights Out. Is that when we turn off all our lights?
No, that's down at Memorial Field. And it's a chance for different agencies to have tables and tents, and
Oh,
it's very fun. It's a great event, family event. You know, the fire department puts up an obstacle course for the kids. And I mean, you know, it's just a lot of fun and games.
oh, so it's basically unplug and get outside night.
Yeah,
Okay,
yeah,
okay.
and interact with
People.
people.
Okay, and that's at Memorial Field.
Yeah, on August 1st. Watch the newsletter. There'll be the details of what time
Are
it
you-
starts.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That sounds good. So I have nothing else to say myself. Okay, so thanks everyone for being here, and enjoy the rest of Flag Day. That's it, we're done.